We're delighted to have been joined by Neil Gordon, Chief Executive of Global Underwater Hub. Neil, first off, you must be delighted to have the first big face-to-face event of the year.
Yes, I often think we've been so fortunate that this is the first big event in the northeast of Scotland for some time. So yeah, there's an element of luck, but so pleased that we've seen a big crowd arrive today. We've got well over 100 exhibitors. And we've had well over 3,500 pre-registered for the event. So, and just the buzz that's been building up to it, and during the day, people can actually meet face to face. So that change, I think, of doing business in this kind of environment, everybody seems happy to be out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also, I think I want to ask you a little bit about the brand evolution to the Global Underwater Hub. Tell us a little bit about the thinking behind that.
Well, it was a few years ago. The Subsea UK as an organisation was set up back in 2003 with support from both Scottish Government and UK Government through DTI and Scottish Enterprise. And after 15 years, we started looking at what's the next 15 years of the industry look like. So part of the work that we looked at was to explore the wider blue economy. We talk about the blue economy because that's areas where there was massive growth. It was set to grow to $3 trillion by 2030, according to the OECD report. So we delved into that and looked at what part of that is the underwater. And about a third of that is energy and aquaculture and seabed stuff under the water. And then we looked at what the potential was for the UK growth in that. So that growth was estimated to be, from 8 billion to about 40 billion by 2035 in some of that analysis. So if we looked at ourselves and said, are we really set up in the UK to get after that massive opportunity? And we said, no, we're not. We've got a great organisation and we've got a great industry, but other parts of the world are investing quite heavily in those sectors. Places like Canada, Norway, Brazil, Japan are all looking at the blue economy and investing in those technologies. But we think slightly differently in this country. We think very much of investing at the top, let's say, in operators and developers and projects, but we forget to look at the industry, the actual strategy for supply chain. So we wanted to look at how do we get our industry positioned to capitalise on that. So the Global Underwater Hub is a much bigger, stronger organisation that spans across the UK, across the regions, but across all the sectors. So bringing in aquaculture, defence, renewables and offshore wind, wave and tidal, and all those other areas, because the common themes are sitting across the ROVs operating all those sectors. Underwater data and robotics and management are very common across those. So essentially that's what the hub does. It represents the underwater sector and helps companies move in that horizontal plane across the different sectors. And part of the role of the hub is really to make sure that we know what opportunities are coming down the line and when to expect them, and helping companies and the industry prepare for that and win the business. So that's the fundamentals behind that.
That's a five-fold leap from 8 to 40 billion pounds. What does that mean from a jobs perspective, do you think?
So job-wise, when we looked at the economic impact assessment with the government and some of those things, which are quite astronomical figures, the figures came out and said it could generate up to 180,000 jobs, which, anywhere near that would be fantastic. But listening this morning to the teams from different sectors in aquaculture and wave and tidal, they are talking about many thousands of jobs coming in those sectors, which really haven't matured yet and are about to. And I think after being 2 years in a lockdown, due to the COVID pandemic, the world has changed quite a bit, and we're sort of coming out in 2022 and looking at the future. All these different things are coming at us, so we really need to capitalise on that. And there's a massive opportunity, and companies will be saying, well, we can't see it. Well, that's our job. It's really about helping them understand how we're going to get after that. But it's not just about opportunities landing on our lap. We've got to get out there and promote the capability of UK, Scotland and North East and all the other parts of the UK. We've got to engage. Like today we've got a session going on with the defence sector. We've got a Rear Admiral from the Submarine Defence Agency talking about their challenges, because we've engaged for the past few years to show them what perhaps is underneath the water and we don't get a chance to show them that innovation. He said, this is exactly the kind of stuff we need to open up a little bit more. Same with aquaculture. Salmon farming is moving into deeper, more challenging environments where it's more tidal, more susceptible to storms. So they need the engineering that we've developed in this sector. So all these capabilities we have, but a lot of these companies don't know where the opportunity is, and the same with the sectors are not aware of the capability. So our job is to really start bringing that together.
To provide that visibility as they try to diversify into other areas and other sectors.
Yeah.
And today also we've seen almost $100 oil, 99 I think it got up to earlier on in the day. Now, what effect do you think that might have, just as the final point before we kind of close off?
Oil and gas is still going to be around for a long time, as we know yet, and we the transition, as we talk about, is a transition. It's going to happen over many, many years. It's not something that's been switched over overnight. It's going to be a long time. Some of those technologies we talk about in offshore floating wind, even the recent ScotWind, those projects probably are unlikely to come into full operation until the early 2030s. So we've got to think about a long-term plan and a strategy, and we have to think about what that actually means. So oil and gas is definitely going to be around for some time, and $100 oil, yes, there are other investments going and our projects will continue, but we've got to look at this as a transition. It's a much longer process. If we think about what government can do in those spaces, I always talk about the energy transition being far out to the right. There's still a long way perhaps before that brings real value to the supply chain. And then often there's policy maybe changes which are trying to maybe look at the decline perhaps in some of these areas. Now, we've got to make sure that that supply chain has sustainable opportunities before those new opportunities arrive. So bringing those energy transition opportunities and the oil and gas decline, as we call it, closer together, making sure there's not a massive dip so we don't lose capability in the supply chain. Otherwise, we can't deliver that energy transition. So it's important that oil and gas plays a part of that transition. And some of the stuff that happens in the underwater space, such as electrification, floating offshore wind, that drives net zero ambition in those offshore installations. We're having conversations now with operators, how they can actually understand what that means for them and help them get that goals that they want to achieve as well.
Fantastic. I'm going to stop it there because I think we've covered most of the subjects we need to. Neil Gordon, thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated.
Thanks very much.